I was just at the 49ers-Titans joint practice that went absolutely off the rails. If you like hearing about Brock Purdy delivering at an MVP level, this is a good update for you. And if you want to hear about some fights, because there were about 6 or 7 of them between the 49ers and the Titans, coached by Robert Saleh in front of the substation. Well, if you like to hear about those, this will be a fun update for you as well. 2 Titans ejected, and most of the fights happened between the 49ers defense, which came with a bullying vibe against that Titans offense. Mike Dunleavy Jr., the general manager of the Golden State Warriors, in attendance, talking to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. That was before practice. Also before team drills, Mike Evans made his return to pads in full uniform for the 49ers. He, however, did not participate in team drills. That did not prevent Brock Purdy from dominating. A lot of Deebo Samuel and Dejon Stribling action as Purdy diced up the Titans defense. There's Ji'Ayir Brown. He had a pick 6 against Cam Ward today. Fred Warner talked a lot of crap to Cam Ward.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all just in good, fun competition. I think Cam is one of the unique quarterbacks where he's not afraid to sit there and play that game with you. You know, whether that's a positive or negative, I think that's still yet to be seen for their side. We'll see. But for me, you know, I'm always trying to get the quarterback out of his game. And anytime I'm in that mode, that's only going to amplify my game, right? So I love joint practices, though. It's the best.
You'll notice that Fred emphasized that Cam Ward has not proven it yet. Not sure if Cam Ward, being one of those quarterbacks who talks back to the defense, will help him or hurt him. And it was fun standing on that sideline, seeing that competitiveness. The 49ers, you know, defensively, they weren't as dominant as their offense was against Tennessee. The Titans had their share of plays, especially on the ground. It seemed that Tennessee was able to pick up some yardage on runs in between the tackles, and the Titans saw some real success in the red zone. But the 49ers defense did make splash plays of their own, and they were brash today. I think that a lot of the fighting activity in this practice early on happened because the 49ers were being a little more aggressive, or maybe a lot more aggressive than the Titans wanted them to be when it came to tackling. I saw a lot of Titans players on the ground, which is typically a no-no. NFL teams no longer tackle fully to the ground. So the 49ers might have been adding a little extra thump to their tackles. And you know, Warner himself even acknowledged that the 49ers wanted to thud up the Tennessee Titans with a little extra vigor.
All camp, you talk about protect the team, no, you know, just wanting to keep guys healthy, but then you finally get an opportunity to play like real football. You're still not taking guys to the ground per se, but like it's going to bring another level of like, all right, let's see who can really like make a thud tackle in the flat, you know, or in a hole, strike shed, you know, and really just play more actual football. So it was fun to just get out there and get better.
The skirmish action really started immediately. Play 1 of team drills, Upton Stout on a run up the middle, seemed to be doing some post-play shoving. On the very next play, the Titans ran a pitch right, and Dre Greenlaw absolutely blew up the tight end, and that led to Fred Warner notching a tackle for loss. That set a really, really physical tone. There were 3 fights, or at least 3 aggressive shoving matches over the first 6 plays on that side of the field. Shortly after the Greenlaw blow up and the Fred Warner tackle for loss, Cam Ward, the Tennessee quarterback, threw a ball behind and over Carnell Tate. It was uncatchable. Carnell Tate is the rookie wide receiver out of Ohio State. But Renardo Green leveled Carnell Tate. And that is the play that the Titans really took exception to, and that is what led to the first bigger fight of this practice. Now, there were more. There was only a couple on the side of the ball featuring the 49ers offense against the Titans defense. But as you saw, the setup here was the 2 practice fields were side by side. It seemed contagious, some of that fighting energy. So Robert Jones, the 49ers first string left guard, seemed to be getting into a lot of action with the Tennessee Titans on that side of the field.
You make a list of the necessities in your life, and for me, sleep is way, way up here in terms of importance. That's why I was so excited about the Bear Elite Hybrid Mattress. I'm doing a lot of athletic stuff like swimming in the bay. I've got to recover in time to hit 49ers practice the very next day. I'm also in the car a lot. I'm 6'5", so you need some place to really stretch out your back and make yourself physically feel intact after a good night's sleep. And that is where the Bear Elite Hybrid Mattress has come in absolutely clutch for me. Make sure to add the Cool Force upgrade for an extra layer of active cooling relief, especially if you run hot while sleeping like me. I liked it enough to get my in-laws one of these mattresses, and they set it up over in Tennessee. They like it a lot as well. The unpacking, super easy. The shipping was very fast. Comes condensed, and then it rolls out, and it looks very nice. It looks like the quality mattress that it is. And remember that most of us spend over 40% of our lives in bed, sleeping. It's important that you make the right investment in the right mattress, because it's going to change how 100% of your life feels and operates. So I love my Bear mattress, and I think you would too. So if you're truly looking to enhance your active lifestyle, head to bearmattress.com/David Lombardi and then enter the code David Lombardi. No capitalizations, no spaces, for 40% off your Bear mattress. This is better than the offer on their website. After you check out, you can support my channel by telling them that I sent you to get this Bear mattress in the post-purchase survey. But honestly, your sleep should be of the highest priority. It's going to help everything else, and for that, you got to make sure you get the right mattress. I can tell you that Bear mattress has been the right one for me.
Now, I'll finish the fight summary in a little bit, but I think that it's important to step back. Big picture, did the teams get the productive work that they needed to in or not? Robert Saleh, former 49ers defensive coordinator and the Tennessee Titans head coach, said, yes, this was a productive day.
It's always going to get heated. Thought both teams conducted themselves the way they needed to. I think there was a lot of great tape to watch, but it was a productive day.
And more productive work is going to happen on Thursday when the Titans play all of their players and the 49ers play mainly their backups. So San Francisco's youngsters are going to get a good test right here at Levi Stadium in the preseason opener. Saleh and Shanahan will actually talk later tonight after both of them watch the tape from this practice and share some thoughts. They watched practice together for a portion today from that center field vantage point.
Yeah, it was always good to pick his brain, looking forward to talking to him tonight after we both watch the tape just to see what he sees, and he's always been, I almost want to say a mentor in that regard. Like, he's an elite teacher, and all ears when he starts talking.
So now that you see that there is still harmony between Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh and the coaching staffs of the 49ers and the Titans, let's get back to the summary of the fights. Later in practice, Osa Odighizuwa ripped in for a sack of Cam Ward. And as you know, in practice, quarterbacks are off limits. You're not supposed to touch QBs, but he ended up grabbing Cam Ward's shoulder pad. And Dan Moore Jr., who had already gotten into a scuffle with Osa Odighizuwa, the 49ers defensive tackle, earlier in practice, really didn't like that, and he started swinging at Osa Odighizuwa. So the Titans ejected Dan Moore Jr. He did not finish practice.
They got kicked out of practice. Okay. Yeah.
Tennessee also ejected Austin Deculus, another one of their offensive linemen. Raheem Morris, the 49ers defensive coordinator, was very, very upset after the 3 fights over the first 6 plays and really seemed to be chewing out Tatum Bethune, 49ers backup Mike linebacker. Unclear if there was any punishment levied out by the 49ers staff against their own players. But I'll say this, and coaches are always going to outwardly, especially in this age of NFL football, coaches are always going to outwardly act like they hate all the fighting. I think there are different types of fighting, though. If you get the productive work in, you get the productive work in. If guys don't get hurt, guys don't get hurt. This was the 49ers and the Titans' first chance to play against somebody that wasn't on their own team. So you can expect a little bit more aggression in that way. But the 49ers now have Dre Greenlaw back, and he and Fred Warner, professional instigators, they always seem to be in the middle of this kind of stuff. And I would say that it's fair to say, based on what we've seen so far, especially today, that 49ers defense might have a bit of an edge that they didn't last year. You want your defense to have an a-hole kind of vibe, right? Kind of vibe that pisses off the opposing offense. And early on, the 49ers seemed to be doing that, and later on, it seemed that Osa Odighizuwa, who is another 49ers free agent pickup this offseason, was doing that as well. So time is going to tell how good this 49ers defense is, but I like to view this in terms of the aggregate, and the aggregate tells me that the 49ers offense, which is going to have to be the locomotive that pulls this train, more than passed the test against the Tennessee defense today. We can talk more about Purdy lighting it up in a little bit. Whereas the defense, as they strive to settle into their new identity with Raheem Morris as their coordinator, they want to make sure that they have that edge, and it seemed that they definitely had a violent edge early in this practice. All right, let's continue on with the highlights and a look at the 49ers QB room. Mac Jones at right there, long pass to Deebo Samuel today. Deebo was all over the place. As I said, no Mike Evans yet in team drills, even though he's suited back up for practice coming off the quad strain. Deebo featured in both the running game and the pass game. I mentioned that yesterday Deebo Samuel worked part-time with the running backs during positional drills, part-time with the receivers. First time I'd ever seen that from Deebo Samuel. Joey Sly, the former 49er, buffest kicker in the league, now with the Tennessee Titans. There's a look at Deebo Samuel, out route at practice. Now you could see Upton Stout, seems to be fiery, seems to be one of those guys who is starting some of the stuff on the defensive end of the ball. Jacob Robinson was 43. He had an interception today, a leaping interception of Will Levis in front of Levi's Stadium. I found that to be quite humorous, but look out for Jacob Robinson. He was a player the 49ers really liked last year. Then he broke his forearm. We also saw Jack Jones. He was number 25 flying through there on these DB drills. That's Ephesians Pricesock, the long cornerback, number 35. But Jack Jones, today, we talk a lot about him being a boom or bust player. Well, today, there was what looked to be a bust. We saw Elik Iomanner, receiver formerly at Stanford, now with the Tennessee Titans, beat him on a double move, and it was like, oh God, he's gotten quite a bit of distance away from Jack Jones. And then the ball went up in the air from Cam Ward, and it looked like it was going to be an easy touchdown, but Jones had great closing speed. And as Iomanner started to secure the ball, Jones was already back with him, and he was able to reach his arm out and barely knocked the ball away, but a PBU is a PBU, and Jack Jones showed some of the recovery talent on that one snap. Now, 49ers added Jones as a free agent this offseason. He, I think, has been flashing over the course of this training camp. We know that he's a boom or bust player, so he's going to have to develop a higher floor for the 49ers to trust him. Right now, Renardo Green and Deommodore Lenoir, the two top outside cornerbacks. Obviously, Upton Stout is the star who's going to play all over the formation for the 49ers. But you can never have too much cornerback depth, and Jones certainly has ability, as does Nate Hobbs, who had those 3 pass breakups the other day, had a great practice the other day. Now Nate Hobbs, he was physically in the middle of a lot of the stuff that I think was upsetting the Tennessee Titans out on that practice field. Now, a receiver that we don't talk about quite enough is Demarcus Robinson, and he deserves some more shine. Remember Demarcus Robinson against the Eagles in the playoffs last year, especially with guys down, and Ricky Pearsall's going to miss the entire season. Robinson, again, I think is going to carry an outsized role in important moments. I thought Brock Purdy had some very interesting things to say about the veteran wide receiver.
One of the best receivers that I've played with in terms of the one-on-one matchup and his feel for the game, and we'll have something drawn up like, hey, the receiver needs to get this many steps and be here on time. But sometimes there's situations where you cut it off short, or you push up into a guy a little bit longer and then get out of the cut. Like, he has a good feel for the game when it comes to that. He's played for a while. He's got a lot of savviness to him. And then obviously in the red zone and stuff, like he's got length. He's got just the ability to go up and get the ball. So, obviously I learned a lot about him last year, but, this offseason and stuff, watching film on him, it's like, all right, we can give this guy more ops and have him be a huge part of our offense. So he's had a great camp. He's been out there every day, showing up, making plays and catches.
Remember that Demarcus Robinson has played with some good quarterbacks, including Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford, and then a lot of success with Brock Purdy this past season. I would not discount his potential impact on this 49ers offense. Injury update, Kyle Shanahan on Nick Bosa says that it's knee tendinitis, so the soreness coming from tendinitis, Shanahan says is a common after effect from ACL surgery. Bosa technically week to week now. The 49ers do not sound concerned. They're saying everything they're doing is trying to gear Nick Bosa to be ready for week 1 against the Rams. Some rumors, or it was a report from Adam Schefter that there's a possibility that Puka Nacua might be suspended for that week 1 game against the 49ers. So obviously more on that in a bit. But here's Kyle Shanahan specifically on Nick Bosa, if you want to hear the words from the man himself.
Just soreness, tendinitis. It's a pretty normal thing with ACLs. Just talking to our guys, they say it happens to about 90% of the guys we've had. So it's a normal thing, and that's why we got to be smart here for week to week. But feeling no concerns about them being any more than that.
Bosa is going to be a centerpiece of what the 49ers run defensively, even though what they're running defensively has obviously shifted since last season. It was interesting today because we saw Robert Saleh, 49ers 2025 defensive coordinator, as coach of the Titans, and then we saw 49ers new defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, who is bringing his very unique set of expertise to the 49ers defense. But there's a unifier amongst all schemes, and that is a pass rush. A good pass rush is good for whatever you are running. So Bosa is going to be important there. As far as what the 49ers specifically plan to run on the defensive side of the ball, Kyle Shanahan, I thought, did a really good job explaining the progression of Raheem Morris's career, which goes all the way back to Tampa Bay, where he shared some time with John Lynch, the player. But that progression helps us understand exactly how he's going to incorporate what he has learned over the years with what has already been set as a 49er standard by guys like Robert Saleh.
I knew Raheem as a quality control for the 2 years I worked in Tampa, and was with him, I think, 2 of the 4 years in Washington and then both of the years in Atlanta. So I always knew how good of a coach he was. And then, he started in Tampa too, ran real similar to what we did in Atlanta. And then when he took over for the Rams and I had to go against him, it was a completely different defense, which is really tough to go against. So the first thing I wanted to hire was the person. I do love that he has experience in a lot of different schemes, but it wasn't that I wanted to just change everything. I do think you have to evolve. I think you look at us last year with Saleh, we evolved a lot. And did some things that he had done for the first time that he hadn't done, or we hadn't done in the previous 8 years. Raheem has experience with all of it. And I do think in this league, with the way people know how to attack schemes and stuff, and you're not always going to, with injuries or just, you don't always have better players than the people you're going against. And when that does happen, you got to change schemes up. And we want the option to do both. Raheem has that experience, and I don't look at it as we're going to be totally different. But I love that we have the ability to be different.
All right, let's make sure that we get through absolutely everything that happened at practice today. Emptying out the notepad for the first joint practice. Some rushing success for the Tennessee Titans. I noticed that, especially in the red zone. So it will be something to watch. If the 49ers struggle to defend the interior run, I could tell you one thing. Vita Vea trade clamoring will not subside. Tampa Bay's been a top 5 run defense in every single season since 2018. When they drafted Vita Vea out of Washington. Vita Vea, who, by the way, went to high school 6.5 miles from Levi Stadium, right behind me. Marquise Siegel notched a couple of pass breakups today, including a physical one against Carnell Tate in the red zone. Seems like we've been calling Marquise Siegel's name quite a bit over the last 2 practices. Now, some boomer bust there. He did give up a long touchdown the other day against the 49ers offense, but Marquise Siegel today, I thought, made a couple nice plays. Obviously, the headliner for the 49ers defense was the Ji'Ayir Brown interception against Cam Ward. How are you? Yeah, it's coming up later. The Jacob Robinson interception, he leapt high into the air. He soared into the air, and it came against Mason Kinsev. Now, Will Levis threw it, but Mason Kinsev is the receiver for the Titans, and just funny because he seemed to be doing a lot of the jawing today. A lot of back and forth between the Titans and the 49ers. He was face-to-face at one point with Jalen Stroman, who's an undrafted 49ers rookie safety. But then Kinsev went out for a pass, Levis threw, and Robinson high into the air. Remember, Robinson last year was a preseason standout, but he broke his forearm, so the 49ers shut him down for the season. There was one instance today in the red zone the 49ers definitely won. Jaden, Duggar, and Larry Worth. Between them, nearly 14 feet of wingspan. Duggar's got a 7-foot wingspan. Larry Worth, another tall linebacker, just shy of 7 feet. Both of them were all over Cam Ward as he rolled to the left and just created this, with the arms outstretched, just created this wall that Ward could not see over, and he had to just throw the ball away. Worth was fired up. I was standing about 5 yards away from this play, and Worth was very vocal. To me, it just really was emblematic of what the 49ers are trying to do to this defense on the second level. It is have a lot of length to cut off those passing lanes. I mean, every inch ends up mattering, and for an adaptable defense that's trying to rush the passer and trying to drop into coverage and make everything look the same, create some confusion for the opposing offense, length is one of the greatest tools, and both Worth and Duggar showed it on that one play. Raheem Morris, speaking of the length and using it in different ways, he blitzed Fred Warner multiple times today, more often than I've ever seen Fred Warner blitz in a single practice. So we continue picking up data points, Jaden Duggar, linebacker, but with the edge rushers for a practice. Obviously, 49ers are going to want to send him after the quarterback. Fred Warner, linebacker, blitzing more often. I think Raheem Morris is going to throw some opposing offenses for a loop this year because the 49ers are going to be approaching things differently than they have in the past. Speaking of Robert Saleh, typically one of the lower blitz rates in the league, especially when he had enough talent. He liked just getting pressure with 4, but I think the 49ers might mix it up a little bit more up front. I have Warner's strategic instigator here written in my notes. And you know what? Brock Purdy, really good today. I said Luke Farrell catching a touchdown in the red zone. Deebo Samuel used in every which way. 49ers only had 3 running backs today because Christian McCaffrey, same type of stiffness as Dejan Stribling had. Christian McCaffrey out today, so the 49ers were down to what? Sincere McCormick, Khalil Herbert, and Patrick Taylor Jr. running back. Khalil Herbert looked like he ripped off a few runs for the 49ers. So what's going to happen next is that Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan, they're watching tape as we speak. They're going to have a phone call, or maybe they'll meet in person tonight, discuss what they saw, help each other out. 49ers and Titans do not play each other, at least this regular season. It would have to happen in the Super Bowl down at SoFi Stadium. Probability of that, not very high, very clearly. But then they're going to get ready for Thursday, first preseason game. So no practice tomorrow. 49ers Titans here on Thursday. It's going to be Tennessee's starters to begin against mostly the 49ers backups. Good work today, despite the fights. The fights, I think, made it more interesting work, and sometimes that aggression has to come off as it did today. So good work today. More good work can come on Thursday here at Levi Stadium. Oh, and Brock Purdy was talking with CMC about what else? The fights. And Purdy dominated today, and the fights happened today, multiple of them, so this is a good quote to finish it up.
I mean, going into these kind of days, we have meetings before and stuff where Kyle's like, hey, protect the team, and it's about getting better and stuff. But, as players, we all know that, this is going to be a really high, competitive, intense kind of day. And so, yeah, at one point, we had a little scuffle going. I look over in the other field, they're scuffling, and I'm sitting back there with Christian McCaffrey, and we're like, dude, this happens. But at the end of the day, being smart, not trying to get hurt by punching a guy in a face mask or something like that. Try to be smart, protect the team. But, it is NFL football. They came all the way over here to practice against us, and I'm glad it was, you could feel the energy and stuff, and we all feed off that. But, yeah, it's a camp scrimmage for you.